So what's up? I'm Chad. I make videos about the Bible, the spiritual life, and the everyday going on of a pastor. And welcome to Channel Chat, a recurring series on my channel where I talk about the ins and outs of what is it like to run a really small Bible channel on YouTube, give a couple of updates about stuff that's going on, but then also to share something that's really helpful to you. And today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you how to set up a 2-page journal spread that I've been using on and off for years, and I think is just super powerful for spiritual development and that sort of thing. So we're gonna get to that in a second. So 3 things today: channel chat, channel updates. I want to talk about the Asbury Revival that's trending right now and that's going on right now, and to give kind of my approach to it. And the third thing, we're gonna do the journal setup also. I can't remember who gave me this, but this is an amazing blender bottle. I just drink water out of it, but it's just right there in front of me. If you're old school to the channel, you might remember how many times we started off with Bigfoot coffee mugs. But channel chat. So we got monetized in December, which is normally when my channel kind of does a lot of big stuff anyway, because of my end of the year Bible roundup and the leading into what Bible am I using for the year. And since then, it's been trying to figure out, what does the content rhythm look like? Sometimes I will post a lot. Sometimes I'm doing this today to literally get a video out there in between uploads of my podcast, The Productive Pastor. But I'm working through all of that right now. I've got a lot of great ideas from y'all in the comments, from things we've talked about. And honestly, doing a video about a Bible review. What do I like about this? Is my 2023 Bible. It's not as good as a turkey buzzard, but I still like it all the way. But that's an easy video to do. I've got some other stuff that's in the dockets that have come up through comments and interactions and that sort of thing that I want to do, but it requires just a little bit more research and work. And life is really, really busy inside of my weird day job as a co-vocational pastor and a congregational developer and a clergy coach. That might be an interesting video. What does my week actually look like? What is Chad's job? If you think that'd be interesting, pop that down in the comments below as well. We'll add that to the list of videos that are getting produced. But YouTube's a really fun place right now, and I'm loving to see how the channel has been expanding inside of the comments and how old videos are getting brought up. I'm also thinking a lot about, the way I approached certain things in the past, and learning that, some of the intentionality I want to put behind this is the fact that some of my biggest videos were barely scripted and could have used a little bit more research into them, not to change what I wanted to say, but to change the way that I said that. So I'm really thinking about my video on why I don't use the ESV anymore. But I've also been thinking a lot about why Christians argue, how Christians argue, what are the ways we can process through that. I'm actually working on a video about that right now, and got this stack of books to talk about almost like the history of Christian disagreement. So I've got that going on. Second thing I want to talk about is the Asbury Revival. So I'm filming this video on February the 15th. And as of today, they have pretty much been having 24-hour worship for 7 days in a row. And if you're on Twitter or you're inside of any Christian conversation stream online, I don't know how you don't know about this right now. And I've not really said anything about it. I'm not saying about it on Twitter, Facebook, all that. Because of this, I went to Asbury Seminary across the street from Asbury University, where this is going on. I've got tons of friends that are there right now, that live there in Wilmore, that teach, that have been part of it. Friends that have been driving in that are alumni of both of the schools. And then also other folks that are just coming in to be part of what's going on. And so it's inside of my tribe that this is going on. And as I kind of continue this posture, in many ways of being Switzerland, of not trying to take hardcore, super heavy sides consistently, is the way that I move through the world. I've not really talked about it. I realized this might be the best venue. So you might be watching this video because I shared it, because I said I'm sharing about the Asbury Revival. But here's the thing. I know that room. And when I say I know that room, it's the history of that room, it's the vibe of that room, it's the culture that surrounds that room. I started Asbury Seminary in 2006, not knowing anything about the Wesleyan holiness movement, just knowing that I wanted to go to Asbury Seminary and I wanted to work for J.D. Walt, who's now the sower-in-chief of Seedbed Publishing. And I worked for J.D. for 5 years. I've led worship in that room. I've seen plenty of services in that room. One of my most formative seminary experiences was actually Graduates Chapel on the day of seminary graduation, where I led worship in that room with some good friends of mine. And I'll tell you, that room is almost like this in Estes Chapel across the street at the seminary in the same way. Those rooms are almost like wells of the Holy Spirit. Now, I've got an approach to faith to where I will think about environments. And I think about, prayer and revivalism now is in the heart of how I spiritually move through the world. And I don't doubt the fact that there's been a certain type of prayer, a certain type of worship, a certain posture towards God that has happened really in that whole town for over 100 years, that I do believe, we want to talk about Celtic spirituality a little bit, that there is a thin space there. And what that means is that there's a level of liminality that because of confession, because of adoration, because of prayer, because of just all of these things that are just deeply key to the holiness movement that have been happening in that town for over 100 years, that the space between the natural and the supernatural is just thin there, that there is a way of encountering the presence of God in a particular way. And I'm not saying it's the right way, it's the wrong way, it's the best way. It's just saying in a particular way that room holds, and that, like I said, Estes across the street, but really the entire Wilmore community. It's this tiny little Kentucky town. It's like Mayberry. When I was there in 2006, 2011, the police chief had an Andy Griffith police car. I mean, it's a tiny little community that only exists because of the seminary and of the university, which are there as kind of the bulwarks of the Wesleyan holiness revival movement, which is just part of that's going on. So, long sort of thing that's there, but Wesleyan holiness thought the word revival is being used, and where I see some people talking about it is they're thinking revival in terms of like a Billy Graham or I'm thinking back to like George Whitefield, those sorts of things. And I like the word awakening, and I feel like the word awakening is more appropriate. Because remember, this is coming out of the Wesleyan Methodist holiness tradition, which really is going to take back its awareness of what this is to John Wesley's event that he would call the Aldersgate experience, when he was walking to the Aldersgate Chapel and he felt his heart strangely warmed. And so awakening is something that, yes, can happen as a salvation experience. And you're seeing people make conversion. You're seeing conversion events happening in that room right now. But it's also it ties in with the idea of the doctrine of sanctification, of entire sanctification, of a movement of grace of where people are completely committing themselves into the lordship of Jesus Christ. And so, the revival awakening term is a different thing that's going on right now. But I think that what happens there, the 1970s, so there's a history of this going on in that space and at the university, the college, because it's older than the seminary, but also happening at the seminary is there's multiple movements. And if you go to the Asbury University website, you can find this document that, this stretches back, I think in 1905 was the first time they went into awakening. And so it seems like almost once in every generation this happens. And these are like push-pin moments. Many of the seminary professors I went to Asbury Seminary with were students at the college across the street during the 1970 revival and can pinpoint that back. Or you go into the 1950s and the influence of guys like Dennis Kinlaw and how the 1950s awakenings, oh my goodness, I can't think of his name. It's actually right here in front of me. Robert Coleman. And so there's all of these people that are there. And so this is seen inside of our tribe, and I'm going to say our tribe because this is the tribe that I belong to, as a moment of catalyzation for Christians to move from, simply maybe being consumers or being on the bench to playing at the starting line. So I don't say that to be the, indicative statement about the revival. But that's kind of where I'm at right this, because a lot of people are putting qualifications on this. Like, well, if this is true revival, then this will happen. Well, this will happen. Well, this will happen. This will. Those are all really, really good things. I think that a lot of those things are being said out of a misunderstanding of what awakening means inside of the Wesleyan Holiness Tribe. So I've been going on for a long time already, so I'm going to stop that, and it's going to, we got what get done. Questions, comments, I talk, y'all know that. So let's talk about a simple way to set up a basic journal page. And this is the way that I have been doing it for a long time. And I love how this works because it's easy, it's approachable, it's part of your devotional practice, but it also helps you move things forward. And so this is it. So this is a Lectorm notebook. I'm actually going to go off of this and go back to my Mujis when this one's done, because as you can see, I started this one like a year and a half ago, right there, the date. I don't know if you see that. Yeah, I like the smaller formats better, because I can pretty much do like 2 monthly spreads with them. So let's make sure we're lined up here. I've got my little stickies to make sure we're lined up good, but okay, yeah, overhead rig is working well. And so this is what I try to do every single day. It's not all that complicated. And like I said, you can spend 30 seconds doing it, or you can spend a long, long time doing it. But this is what I do. So we've got our date. I know that I've already done my scripture reading for the day, or at least what I intended to do. And so I write that down at the top. But if I write down more, if I do more, I write that down. Let's scooty. All right, there we go. That's just there. It's the way to notate this, to keep this up. Then the next thing as I do is thanks. The things that we are thankful for. I believe that thankfulness is the door knock to the presence of God. That if you're wanting to begin a deep devotional life for the first time, you have questions, what to do first, I would say start being thankful. Start practicing thankfulness and gratitude. It's all throughout the Psalms. It's a big deal. So thanks there. Now, prayer requests. Now, I like writing down prayer requests because you can track how things are happening. You can track how the Spirit is moving, but it also intentionally makes us a people of intercession, which, going back to the Asbury Revival, is one of those key things, that we are intercessors. And so these are the things where our heart is at the moment. These are the things that we are praying for. And then my last one, and I give this a full page, is thoughts. Okay? Sometimes I fill this whole page up. Sometimes I write 1 or 2 lines down. Sometimes my thoughts are trucking along at such a level, I have to flip a page over and just like continue the day. But that is a simple 2-page journal spread that if you ever wanted to start journaling, that's an easy way to do it. That's an approachable way to do it. And it's a way that if the block that you have going on is, oh my goodness, this is going to take all day long to do or take all this time. No, not really. You're putting in reps, building the spread, putting in one thing at least, and just building up the reps, and realize that also, like, sometimes I'm not going to flip through this because this is, significantly personal. But you probably just saw, a little bit of stuff that my journal has, just like, it's all over the place with what that looks like. And you'll see I've got, Post-its that are inside of here, all sorts of things. I sometimes just have really good days, and I end up doing like sermon design inside of here. But this is like my record of my personal spiritual life. That's the way that I handle my journal and all of that. So jump into journaling, go there, do that. Come hang out in the comments. I think my next video is going to be walking people through how to use the Episcopal Book of Common Prayer and how to build that devotional practice. Like I said, a little bit of research, a little bit more production, and life is cray busy right now, but hey, thank the good Lord for that. So I'm Chad. If you like this kind of content, like, subscribe. I'll come hang out in the comments with you later on. Until next time, I hope you're doing well.